Welcome to another episode of We the Neurodivergent, and we're back here with the amazing Sonal. Yay! The crowd goes wild. Thank you, Sonal, for being back on the podcast. This time, I was hoping it was such a great conversation with you last time, and we touched on so many different subjects. It was such a great introduction to who you are in the world. And so I was hoping today that we would talk about your postpartum depression experience, because I feel like it's something that's not really talked about, and a lot of folks kind of like have some shame about it because society just expects you, like, aren't you supposed to be excited? You just had a baby. What do you mean you're not happy? What do you mean you don't want to spend time with the baby? What do you mean you don't want to be here? What do you mean you're depressed? Like, I feel like there is a lot of preconceived notions and projected ideas and judgments, and women just like don't talk about it a lot. But you're a very brave woman who like owns her shit and talks about things. So I was hoping that you would talk to us about it, if that's cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pin you because I don't want to see me. That's the first thing. Okay. Second thing is, yeah, absolutely. I've always felt very comfortable talking about the struggle of being a mum from the very beginning. And even with all the judgment and the looks and the insinuations. And I think the reason why is I can't get better for my son unless I take responsibility of what's going on. So for me, there's a lot of childhood trauma that I was very successful in life because I had kind of compartmentalized it and I just done a lot of great shit, and I was very, very great in the world, like getting on with stuff, making money, got married, got 3 houses, like doing it all. But when I got pregnant, when I had my baby, usually with the hormones and in my experience, when you do have childhood traumas, a lot of that will then get pushed up from under the rug and out into the open. And so for me, I was so aware of the possibility of it. There's postpartum on my dad's side of the family. One of my aunts were institutionalized, and I just knew who I was as a person, and I just knew that I was high functioning depression, like high functioning. Never took medication, never gone to therapy. But I knew there was stuff that I really did need to work on, but I just never made the time to do it. And it was only when my son came, he was born, and I was kind of expecting it because it made sense. But yeah, so as soon as he was born, I really remember it. Like the way I was in the world was he was born and he's in my arms in the labor. Like I've just given birth, he's in my arms. And my first thought isn't, oh my God, he's here. My first thought is, okay, we've organized for the stem cells to be like withdrawn and like taken. So I'm like, where's the stem cells nurse? And like, where's this? And I'm like still managing because that's just how I functioned, how I survived in the world. Finally, we get home, like I'm reading all the books and he's just not doing what he's supposed to do. Like I'm doing my bit. I've read all the books. I am like doing everything I'm supposed to do, but he's not sleeping and he's just crying. And I just become really catatonic. That's my first experience of it. I just withdraw. I'm like a machine. I'm there when he needs me. I do what needs to be done. The moment I can get away from him, I escape. And I remember just sitting in this armchair because I had no energy to do anything else, dreading the moment I hear his voice again. and I have to get up and do what needs to be done. And it was, I think this carried on for a couple of months at least. And I'm not sure what the catalyst was, but I remember just turning around to my husband and my sister going, like, I need help. Like, I really need help. And I think, I'd meet with all these mums there was like a group of us. The city got together with these namaz classes and in London, and we all gave birth. We were all due around exactly the same month. So we all had our babies around the same time. I had Ravi first, and then it was like a couple of days, someone had a baby, a couple of days. And so in those couple of months, we would meet like once or twice a week. And everyone else's kid would just be there, like staring into space and calm and relaxed. And my fucking kid would just be screaming his ass off the whole time. And I hated being a mum from like the first few days. I hated being a mum. I had no affection for him or love. I didn't feel any love for my child except this overwhelming obligation and responsibility that I brought him into the world, and now I'm stuck with him and it's not his fault. So I owe him. And
it's more
all
the making wrong of self. We don't talk about, like, I want to put a pin in this because it's showing up again. When you're wired to do, like when your MO, for all intents and purposes, to like survive and make it in life is like, I'm going to do the most, I'm going to cover all the bases, I'm going to excel at everything, and everything's going to be perfect. And then you have a child, and then your best effort is somehow not good enough because this thing like won't shut up and it's never happy, and I'm trying everything. I'm like giving it my all. I'm giving A levels effort and I'm getting D's as results. It is so demoralizing. We don't talk about, as people, as humanity, how demoralizing it is to be a mom, to be a parent. I see down by the park, I see moms with like toddlers who are like losing their shit. They're on the ground, kicking, screaming. You can tell these women like have nothing left in them, and they're okay with their kids like being on like the sidewalk, which is nasty. Dogs pee on it, people poop, like it's San Francisco, right? And they're like, when you can say in, like, you can tell in someone's face like they've got nothing left to give, and still they like pick up the kid under the arm like sideways because it's kicking and screaming, and you can just tell like this poor woman is like burnt out. We don't talk about how demoralizing parenting can be. And then of course it's going to cost you your mental health. Of course you're going to be like, I'm catatonic, I fucking need help, like this is I'm drowning.
Yeah,
like,
there's two nuances here. One, most of us in this culture that we live in, I think we're intrinsically, our identity is intrinsically connected to how we perform, how much we achieve.
yes.
So our badge of honor, like, oh, how are you doing? Oh my God, I am so exhausted. Oh my God, things are so, like, it's really exhausting. Like we have this, like you could not imagine turning around to someone going, how are you? And I mean, you going, oh my God, I'm amazing. I had an amazing massage yesterday. I mean, like, that would be scary because they'd want to stab you in the back if you walked away. But like, we use it as a badge of honor. And then to find that no matter how hard you try, it's not enough. You're not getting the results, especially if you're used to putting in the effort and getting the results. And that's what you know yourself to be. And that's not happening anymore. So that's the first thing. Secondly, I became catatonic so I wouldn't shake or smack my child.
Right.
I am very clear. Like I grew up being smacked. I grew up being hit. Like I was definitely beaten as a child. Like, and how I wound up being is even not anymore. But I think for the first at least 5 years of Ravi's life, every time something happened, my first instinct was to smack him one, because that's how I've been primed. That's a learned way of, and I never have, and I don't judge people who do. But what I know is how much it took out of me to not do it. Mm. And so I became catatonic around my son, which actually is just as worse, just as bad, because your child, even newborn children, the facial recognition, the facial expressions that they experience with their mother and the smell of me, I actually became also just as unsafe for Ravi, because he just never knew. Like, it was just as, I think, just as bad. And it affected him socially when he grew up. And then, I'd lose my shit, and then I'd leave the room and I would scratch my arms until bloody, or literally pull my hair until my eyes teared.
Oh my goodness.
And then I would take deep breaths and I'd walk back into that shit catatonic again.
Well, the thing is, like, babies can smell, like we exude, like we sweat out cortisol, and animals can smell it. Dogs can smell it. Probably babies can smell it too, which is why he was like, and also the nervous system was tapped out.
Yeah.
Your best effort, you're an overachiever. So high achievers, you know how to kick ass, you know how to get results, you know how to excel and succeed. And when your winning formula is not working, and then you know that the way you were raised, or like your primary programming is not available to you, your nervous system is just tapped out, like you don't know what to do. So of course, to self-preserve, to not lose your mind, you become catatonic. It totally makes sense. I'm sorry, I just sneezed. I gotta blow my nose, but I'm here and I'm listening.
No worries. So I chose to be catatonic, and I embraced being catatonic so I wouldn't damage my child. I wouldn't scream or shout at him or shake him or whatever it was. I chose to be catatonic. That was the safer thing to be. And then it was a couple of months of doing this when I was just like, I got to a place where I found some solace, where I was like, okay, I need to figure shit out, because I lived with this for a very long time. Some people are meant to, in my head, the story I told myself is some people are meant to be mothers and some people really aren't and shouldn't be. And I really shouldn't have been a fucking mum. And I would say to my husband, I'd even say to other people, like, I don't know what the fuck I was thinking, that I could be a mother, that I should have been a mother. But he's here now. And just because I've had a fucked up childhood, and just because I don't know how to, just because of the trauma I grew up with, that is not a good enough excuse for me to be a shit mother. And that's what it was. And so I found a therapist. And before we even started working on Ravi, like, I remember so many weeks where all I did was cry in the sessions and walk away going, oh my God, what a waste of money. Like, we're not even working on anything. I should be crying on my own time. And then.
Of course, again, like achieving, getting results. You're like, I just wasted money crying in here. I could be crying on my own time. I hear you.
Myself. Like, cry on the way there, cry on the way back. But you know what? When you're in the room, you should not be crying. You should be getting shit done so you can get better. So that was a whole, at least a few months of that. But
I mean, I want to extend some compassion to the Sonal of that time, who felt so defeated, and like her best was not good enough to the point that you would doubt your ability to be a good mom. Like looking at you now, like you're
I
an amazing mom.
am
But
an
like,
amazing mom.
I know, but like it's like, can you, like, how sad to where you would, I just like, I want to extend some compassion to that old person. Like she didn't even give a chance to like be sad about it, because you were like, well, just because you had trauma does not mean you get to ruin this kid's life. So get it together, and we're gonna rock this shit. And rock it, you did.
Yeah.
Back to being an overachiever.
And it, it was, and then also through the sessions, I was very much against medication. My aunt, had postpartum, and they drugged her up. This is like almost 30 years ago, right? 30 something years ago. And I think the drugs then, like, now I'm wiser, and I'm sure the drugs then were very different, and it zombied her out. And she went from a much more softer version of me, because I had a very aggressive masculine energy back then. She was a much softer version of me, but still lively, and the energy, and she completely became a zombie. And I was absolutely against the drugs. But after 6 weeks, I think, therapy, I went back because things weren't getting better at home between me and Ravi. I feel like, it got to the point where I had real thoughts of suicide. I knew exactly how I was going to do it, but then I didn't want to leave my son knowing that I committed suicide and the trauma that he would have get left with.
Right.
So I would drive down the road praying that something would happen in the car in the other lane and they would plow into me. Like, this was my constant thought. Like, I would pray that I'd be walking on the sidewalk, and I started becoming reckless as I was crossing the road, hoping that I'd get hit by a car or something else would happen.
Yes.
And I even called the insurance company to increase my life insurance. And I actually researched about, does suicide still get count? And then I found out that if you up your, and I did up the life insurance, but then I found out that if you up your life insurance and then you commit suicide, your insurance gets void for up to, and you've got 12 months. So then I thought, oh my fucking God, I'm going to have to stick this out for 12 months, because if I'm going to kill myself, I cannot kill myself and then not leave my son with at least something. And so and then I went back to therapy and I said, I need medication. Like, I need something. And she was like me. She was kind of not against medication, but it wasn't the go-to. And she actually said, Sonal, I was hoping to talk to you about this today. I really think that medication might be the extra crutch that can give you the space to heal. And then you can decide if you want to continue on it or not. But and then I remember going to all these mums groups, and I'd be like, how's it going? Because all I want to do is bitch about how fucking my son won't stop crying. And everyone's like, oh my God, and from the beginning, oh, there's so much joy. Oh God, I've never felt this kind of love. And I'd be like, and then they'd turn around to me and be like, oh my God, what's it like for you? And I'm like, I fucking hate it.
Right.
I am hating every second of every day, and I cannot believe I was this fucking stupid to think that someone like me could have a baby.
Aww.
And when you say this to people don't know what to do with themselves. Right. They don't know what to do. But occasionally, the same people, even if we're in a group, and we were usually in a group, the same person that was like 2 minutes ago saying how amazing it was would actually turn around and say, you know what, actually, like, I am really struggling. It's really hard.
Yeah. Dude, the looking good and the social expectations of women and like moms. Like, I love it. It's when you were sharing that, and I was like, dude, I wish more women would get real about how difficult it is to be a mom and a parent. Because like when I took care of like my friends' kids, the moment they flew back from London, and I was like, you need to complain more because this is some shit. Like, parenthood is hard and women don't complain enough. I feel like people need to be complaining more because it's some shit. Like, it's not for the weak. It's like, this is Sparta on a next level. Like, it's crazy.
It's survival of the fittest. And like, I started just, and I was just and I think like I said earlier on, somehow I just refused to lie about it. I just refused.
Good for you.
And I didn't care what people thought. And I question that sometimes. Why? Because I was so not because I also that's always how I've been. Like the aggressive masculine energy, it was very easy for me to not be a people pleaser and rub people the wrong way and then pretend that I'm okay having those kind of conflicts when really deep down I was so insecure. I was so used to just being really overly honest and aggressive in what I say, even if it was about me. And then it was just really, really wholesome, I think, to connect to women. And then women, my friend, weren't really friends, but they would also be honest. And they were like, most women struggle with some form of postpartum, even if it's just the hormonal imbalance.
Yeah.
Most women don't get to where I was. I think like, and I've been told as well, like in diagnosis, I was very much borderline like psychotic breakdown. But just because of who I am and how I wound up being, I just refused to go over the edge. And that's where the catatonic, like I chose to be catatonic, and that saved me those first 6 months.
Association. Yeah.
Saved me.
Yeah.
Because I absolutely could see myself harming myself. I don't think I would have harmed my child. I really don't think I would have done that. But taking myself out of the equation, like I was desperate to do that. And it was only, I could not have let my child grow up in a world where he would have then left with the trauma of having a mum who couldn't love him enough to stick around. And that story, right. I could have damaged him because he was there because I fucking decided that I wanted to get knocked up and have a kid, and when I should have known better. And so the first few years of like being a mum with Ravi was all about responsibility. I owe this child. I don't deserve to take it an easy way. And he doesn't deserve to have a shit ass mum because who's just too weak. That's really where I came from.
The weight of the ball and chain and sort
yes.
of social responsibility of like, I fucked up and now like I owe this kid and now like I have to do this. Like there was no space to show yourself kindness or compassion. You were just like on trial in your own head. You committed the crime and now you got to pay for it.
Yep. Yeah. And I think, and I also want to get really clear. My husband was there supporting me the whole time. The moment he'd work, I went back to work in 3 months. I would have gone back to work in 6 weeks if my company would have allowed it and people wouldn't have judged me for it. That I felt like I was trapped for 3 months. But when Suresh came home from work, he took over everything for Ravi. And he gave me my space and he was loving towards Ravi without making me feel like I was a shit mum or there was something wrong with me. And I don't know how he did it, and I still question him about it, but that saved me. And don't get me wrong, like we moved in with my mom when I was 7 months pregnant so she could help me with Ravi. Like I had help. I had people waking up in the middle of the night to bottle feed Ravi so I could sleep. Like there are people out there who have no help. And I had help and I still struggled and almost had a psychotic breakdown due to my postpartum. And why am I sharing this? Because I feel like there is this kind of like, how can you have postpartum when you had all this help? Like, how can, like, you had all this help, you had all this people looking after your kid and giving you time to have a shower and eat your dinner and wake up in the middle of the night. Like, there are people like it's almost, and I never sensed it from, I think I've sensed it sometimes, but what am I trying to say?
Well, I mean,
Postpartum is a really serious thing.
right. Postpartum depression and depression are not tied to like being spoiled and entitled or not being grateful enough. These are completely separate processes. And you can have, like you said, all the help and all the support and still suffer from postpartum. It's not because you're not grateful and because you like have lack of resources. Postpartum happens, whether you have all support or you don't. It happens.
And I think that is an impact for women. Like when they don't have to worry about where the rent money is coming from or the mortgage because their husband's working, they get to stay at home, or they have a nanny. And also single moms are doing everything on their own. Like, I think social economic backgrounds does not decide whether you have severe postpartum or not, or a right to have postpartum.
Well, that's the bigger sort of like conversation, that we're so hard on ourselves, that the society is so hard on us or has such high expectations of us, to where we feel like we need to deserve the right to have a breakdown and a postpartum depression or depression of any sorts. Like we need to earn the right to have depression. Like that's not how any of this shit works.
Yeah.
Having a conversation with someone who was saying like, oh, if you have gratitude, you don't have depression. I'm like, I'm currently depressed and I practice gratitude every day because it's a biochemical, neurochemical reaction. Like it's not lack of gratitude. That's a sad state of affairs, that women are sort of trapped in feeling ashamed for having mental health struggles. Like that's, you don't have to like earn it and deserve it. You're a human being.
Yeah.
Right.
And
experience.
Yeah. And like when we're in San Diego now, we moved like literally when Ravi hit just a year old, I said to Suresh, like, I need to get away from my toxic family. I'd just been doing counseling enough for a year. I'd been doing it therapy for a year, but I hadn't got enough tools in my tool belt yet to create powerful boundaries. And I had a long way to go, and so I was like, I need to escape my toxic family. I need to accept, and I need sunshine. I need a change. I need sunshine. And we moved to San Diego. And even now to this day, when I meet people and they're like, oh, so how did you move to San Diego? I'm always open and going, I suffered from a really severe postpartum when I had my son. And I asked my husband that we need sunshine. And the fates and everything aligned, and we made it happen and we moved. I would have moved anywhere with sunshine. But, women, and like the medication, that was a whole journey in itself, because I tried to wean off it multiple times. Mm-hmm. So I took it for like 8 months, because in my mind, postpartum is something that you get and then you get over.
That's what I thought. No.
Over a designated time. And so I took the medication first for like, I think it was 6 months, 7-8 months. And then I weaned off it. So I started taking half the tablets and then I stopped taking it. And now in hindsight, this is what happened. So I'm at the top of the roller coaster, and I'm taking the medication and we're just flying perfectly. I stopped taking the medication, and it took about 6 months. So over that 6 months, I was slowly going down. but I didn't realize until I had crashed and hit
Oh,
bottom. And I I started going back to like how everything was before, but it was so gradual. I didn't realize, and then I don't know again what the catalyst was, but something bad, like something must have happened. I must have been shouting a lot more often, and I don't know, but something happened where I was like, I need to get back on this medication. I went back on the medication. Things started getting better. I was on it for another, like, let's say another 8-9 months, and then I started weaning off of it. And then this time I noticed when I didn't crash yet, but I was on the down. And I got back on it, and then I did it again. Because in my mind, medication is really bad for you and you shouldn't be on medication. And postpartum is something that you have and you get over. The last and final time I tried to wean off it, I was a couple of months in, and I was halfway down, and I went to the doctors. I remember being on the phone with my sister, and I remember crying on the phone, and I remember saying, I remember realizing that I don't know if I'll ever get over this depression. Like I remember really feeling the impact of, I may never, like, whatever chemical is now happening in my brain and in my body, like, this might be a permanent thing. Like, my postpartum might actually be something that I will now have to live with. Like this, it just might be what there is in my life. And I might be on medication. Like, that's what, and I was with the doctor. I remember saying to him, like, I don't want to be on medication. And he just turned around to me and it was amazing. He just said, Sonal, how much energy does it take for
mm,
you to be in life without the medication? And I was like, it takes everything, like every moment of every second of every day. I'm thinking about, like, not getting angry, not getting pissed off at Ravi, staying calm, not fucking smacking him. And he's a toddler now. And he said, Sonal, what would it be like if you could take the medication so that it takes the edge off, so that energy can be spent creating a joy and getting your flavor back in life. And I think at that moment, I was like, I'll think about it. And it was 2 days, and I called him back and I said, I need the prescription. And, I think it's been 5 years now, maybe 5 years now. And I am taking my medication. And I know for a fact, I mean, again, I have a story about medication. So the fact that I feel like I need to say, I'm not on a very high dose, I'm on a really low dose. There is
mm.
bullshit in my space about having to take medication, me having to take medication. But it is what there is to do. And I have an incredible relationship with my son. I have who I get to be as a parent for my son, I know is directly linked to the fact that I get to use all my energy in creating this relationship rather than keeping my shit together.
No, totally. It reminds me of one of the landmark conversations, and maybe it was the distinction of choice and sort of like what you resist persists, right? And like how much energy we invest. Yes, I think it was in the advanced course, in the choice, vanilla, chocolate, choose. How much energy we invest in resisting what is, when we can regain that energy and then reallocate it in a way that actually feeds us well. I love that you had access and that you had sort of like that type of coaching by your doctor. Like, what if you can use your bandwidth for things that bring you joy? What a difference that makes. I didn't realize that. I didn't know. I guess we never talked about it, that you were still on this medication. I totally get the world of it, man. Because I had a really hard time admitting to myself that I need ADHD medication. I internalized it as like a weakness that I can't have my shit together and I have to have medication. And I think that actually just now recently I realized that like these symptoms are not getting better. Me occasionally taking meds is not sustaining. It's not allowing me to create the life that I want to lead. And I just like I need to be in medication every day. And and that's again that distinction choice that we get to own it and create from it. I love that you had that wisdom on time. Like it took a few
Yeah.
oops, but like no, but you got it, you know? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Really.
I think the feeling of like I need medication to be a good mother.
Mm.
Otherwise, I need to be drugged up so I can be a decent mother. That's all that
So
bullshit.
hard on yourself.
No, and I don't have that in my space at all now, at all. And I think, women who have postpartum, like we trivialize it a little bit as well, like, oh, the baby blues, everyone has the baby blues. But if that's the case, then why don't we talk about having the baby blues
Totally.
and feel comfortable? And I think you need, as a woman, you have to have people you can talk to who are just going to listen and not make you feel shit.
Yeah.
Um, and talk to other people, who find groups of women. There are plenty of groups for women who have postpartum or had postpartum. And there's wisdom in the collective feminine energy. And this is something no man will ever be able to understand.
Right.
I truly believe.
I'm also thinking like thank you for mentioning that. It reminded me of a conversation. I was talking to this lady, oh, back when I was teaching. So I guess like less than a year ago. I was teaching spin classes, and there's a lady who just gave birth and she was tired. And her husband and her mother in law were like, "Dude, why are you tired all the time?" And we were talking about the generational differences, the like our mothers and their mothers just didn't have, I mean, the world looked differently. They didn't have as much on their plate, and they were somehow, or they just like never complained. And we inherited this way that like we need to just have all of our shit together and have the career and the life and the marriage and the kid and everything. It has to be perfect, and I'm perfect, and I need to look good, and all the fucking things, right? At the same time. And it was just like somehow these expectations were set, and these previous generations, I guess women just endured and did not complain because that was just part of the role. But like it's a lot, dude. I'm thinking like honestly, I'm thinking of the toll it takes on a nervous system to like now all of a sudden, yes, you've been pregnant, you've been waiting for this moment, but now you've given birth. Giving birth is like in Spanish they call it dar la luz, like you're giving light. And it's understood in certain like indigenous cultures that it's like where you closest, like the line is very thin between life and death, which is why so many women die in childbirth, right? And that's a stress on your nervous system because our brain is wired for survival, and you're like on precipice of dying while you're giving life. And then the toll it takes to recover, so that's additional toll. And then now you're in charge with staying alive and making sure that this baby stays alive and has everything it needs. It's a lot on a nervous system. It's a lot of things at the same time. And then familial responsibility, like it's a lot. And I don't know if we honor how much it is. And then we trivialize it. You're right, like baby blues. But that's a lot on any nervous system. That's a huge stress and huge shock to the system. Like, I'm almost surprised that more women don't experience in a modern world, or like maybe people just don't talk about it. I'm surprised
I
that
think so many women experienced it, Ivana. I think so many women experienced probably what even to the level that I experienced it. And they just persevere and get on with their shit and cry themselves to sleep at night.
damn.
And sorry, I've lost my
No, it's really, it's tragic to think.
oh, I was going to think the generational thing. So I think also socially and generationally, like, 2 generations ago, women were brought up with the expectation of having a family and running your home. Okay. That's like, and even if they were educated, that's what their purpose in life was, to be a mother and to bring up children. Then the generational shift where women are getting educated, world wars happened, and women started working. And, all of a sudden, the social culture was still that a woman is to look after her home and her family and work in a pharmacy or something, right? Work as a receptionist or something like this. Now we have a completely different identity for our girls. We bring our girls up, even if we don't say it to them, from the TVs that they watch, the social things that they watch, the books that they read, what they see, the adverts, everything, that girls are now brought up to, there's an expectation that they're going to get a job, they're going to have a career, they're going to make money. Like, I had all of those things.
You get to get to the right schools. It's like same expectations from men and then some more.
And then, so I'm expecting, there's an expectation I have on myself that I'm going to look the part. So I'm going to learn how to put makeup on. I'm going to look the part. I'm going to speak the part. And then I'm going to get the job. I'm going to get the career. Then I've got to find the man. Then I want to have a house. So I need a mortgage. I want a big diamond because that's what's usually expected. And then then it's like you're together for 10 years and it's like, okay, your marriage is kind of still okay. And now it's time to have a family because something feels like it's missing. So you think, okay, it's time to have kids. That's what it was like for me. So Robbie was chosen. We chose to get pregnant. And what we're not prepared for is, any point in this growing up was I ever really taught, or I considered having a family or the sacrifices involved in having a family.
Right.
So my time was my own. Like, it was totally my own. And now I have no time.
Right.
And that's another thing that made me think maybe I'm just not meant to be a mom, because other people seem to be able to adjust so perfectly to like sacrificing their time, their money to this child. They're like all of this attention to this child. And your life is over. And that's what it was like for me. My life is over.
Well, this is, I think, why so many folks don't choose intentional parenting, because that shit requires more energy. And you're just like, I'm barely surviving over here. What, like, this is the best I can do right now without losing my shit. So you're going to be happy with it, which is why, we don't show up intentionally. We're just like action reaction. We're on autopilot, right? It's a lot. I think you're really, I think you're really right. I don't think that we really acknowledge how much it is. Also, kids always need something. Dude, I spent a week with 2 kids and I was like exhausted every day. And every day I came home like, thank God I had abortions. Thank God I didn't have kids. Like, this shit is like somebody put me out of my misery. It's like constantly something. I don't know how people do. Like, you guys are unsung heroes and champions. I honestly feel like every mother is a fucking gladiator. Like,
Yeah.
incredible. It's incredible.
And the mothers and the parents that have multiple kids. I had one. And then I had a hysterectomy because I do regret having my hysterectomy. I realize now that I had, even though it was like 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. I I thought I really knew. But actually what I know now is I had that hysterectomy from a fear place.
Mm.
I never want children. I cannot ever trust. I will never survive another child. Like I will kill myself. Like I will not survive another depression like that. It came from a fear place and I had a hysterectomy. But and sometimes there are moments of deep sadness when I have to live with that realization that I did that. But I have one kid. Like I cannot imagine. I mean, I think I'm amazing. And I work very hard. It doesn't come naturally. It still doesn't come naturally. I'm an amazing mom, but it does not come naturally. It's something I have to work on every day. And there are others out there that have more than one child. And
that's more power to them. But I think it's like, there is so much bandwidth and you can do an excellent job. It's like quality over quantity. Do you want to have quality output? Or like you can't have both. You can't be an intentional parent with 5 children. Like it's not possible. You don't have that much energy or cognitive bandwidth to be an intentional parent of 5 children while keeping the house together and having, like, I don't know, a relationship, like a marriage.
I disagree.
You think that's possible?
I think if you start intentional parenting with your first child, it's effortless because the older siblings start role modeling the behavior.
Okay.
To start intentional parenting at the end when like you've got 10-year-olds and then you've got a newborn, I think that would be, I mean, I don't know if that's possible. I don't know. But I think with intentional parenting, it could actually be much easier to have multiple children because you're a role model. The way that they speak, the way that they advocate for themselves, the way that they are they're conscientious of the impact their words have in community. I think that it can be really powerful and easier because you have your older kids, because that's what happens. The older children actually help with the upbringing, especially socially of the younger siblings. So I actually think
that makes sense.
Work really, really well, but not if you don't.
Siblings always look up and mimic the older siblings, so that makes sense. Still, multiple children sounds like a lot, but you're probably right. That's a great point, that employing and applying intentional parenting actually preserves energy down the line, because you create things in the way that's like workable versus being at the effect of what's so forever and ever and ever. I see that. I stand corrected. I see that. That makes sense.
I totally think you can. And, actually just going back a bit, I think you totally can imply intentional parenting, no matter how old your kids are or how many kids you have. But I think you need a coach to do it. I think you need someone like me to hold your hand, to be your sounding board when you're having a breakdown, to be able to call me so I can elevate you back to a space to re-empower you to go out in the world and be who you said you're committed to being as a parent. To do it on your own, I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying it would take everything. And I personally know my bandwidth, and I know I absolutely don't have that capacity myself. But I'm not going to say other people can't. But with coaching, I think anything is possible for sure.
Right. And since we're on this subject, where can people find you to get intentional parenting coaching? How can they find you on social media or?
Well, you can visit. I think the easiest thing is to visit my website. And my website is www.liberatemE.org. and you'll find a contact page on there. That's the best thing to do, is just reach out to me and just have a conversation. I'm really particular with who I work with, because I want to make it, like, selfishly, this is my thing. Like, I want to make a huge difference in people's lives. And, some people just need someone to listen to them. And that's what therapy is for.
I hear
You know,
you. I hear you.
that's what therapy is for. And there's nothing, I mean, I'm a relationship therapist. There's nothing wrong with that. But I've come to a point in my life where I want to have real impact for my client. I want to really pull them onto the mat, pull them into the court of life, and call them out on their shit.
Yeah. That's also why I chose coaching. I hear you. There's huge value in that.
And when they say they want something, this is the life I want, this is how I want to be a parent, this is this is the relation, then I'm like, I'm not going to have it go any other way. So you tell me that's your commitment, I'm going to tell you what it's going to take, and we agree to that, I'm going to make it happen. So, and some people can't handle that. So that's why a conversation needs to happen. But yeah.
Part of intentionality. You have to choose the energies you engage with. You have to choose what that's intentionality overall. You choose what you participate in. It makes perfect sense that you would be not picky, but just like discerning with which working relationships you engage with. That totally makes sense. Thanks for sharing your website.
No worries. I really enjoyed this conversation today.
I always enjoy our conversations. There's so much wisdom in that. And thank you for always being so brave in sharing we share this quality. Like, you can count on us to say what everybody else is thinking and not saying. We'll be the ones to say it. But it's important, right? Like, it's like naming the elephant in the room. Like, why are we all dancing around this thing when it's in our way and it's sucking up space? Like,
I think there's so much power in vulnerability. I don't know how you can be powerful without embracing parts of you with kindness and compassion and vulnerability. And I actually think that's really powerful. I don't think it disempowers you.
Yeah, no, for sure. I just recently, since the last time my dog, who was attacking me a second ago, gave me a concussion, I guess last November, I've been having way more bouts of depression. And this time around, as you know, last week, I was like, I am depressed. I'm owning it. I'm claiming it. This is what's happening. And I'm going to be with it. Like, I'm going to be at peace with it, instead of like, oh no, what's wrong with me? And it sucks that we all get caught up in these stories of why we don't, like, why we're wrong to feel the way we're feeling. This world we've created does not honor humanity or Mother Nature, for that matter. And it doesn't work. And a lot of us experience depression in different type of, or even mental health issues in different type of scenarios. So I think that you're absolutely correct. I think it's so important, and it's such a flex to be vulnerable and to have the courage to share what is so for us, because it opens up something for someone else, and it allows us to really get responsible for what's so, and what are we going to do about it, and how are we going to create from that place, instead of dodging and resisting and wasting more energy. I hear you. You guys, these dogs, stop it. Jesus Christ. I put the outfit that I wore yesterday over there. That's my fault. To put into dirty laundry, and these two knuckleheads decided to take my outfit and play tug of war with it while I'm trying to record a podcast. Never a dull moment here.
Okay. Thank you so much.
I really enjoyed this, and thank you for coming on the podcast again. And it's always such a pleasure hearing your story and learning from you. So thank you so much.
You are so welcome.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you for participating. Thank you in advance. for any love you might show to this episode. I'm excited to do this again. Thank you, Sonal. Mwah.
Thank you.
Woo, woo. As I'm being attacked by a dog. Hi, dog.